So where are we supposed to start? We all want to improve our work skills, our capabilities, our capacity to grow, to do more, to have more control over our work, to have better quality work, higher productivity. But where do you start? Over my career, I've collected a set of axioms, just basic ideas that I work with and I recheck often as I do my work, as I get new opportunities, as I do consulting. And it's something that helps me in the academic world, it's something that helps me in the business world, in marketing and communications, and it helps me with executive consulting as well. So let's take a look at the axioms and see how you can get more done and have more control over a better quality product. Hi, I'm James Callahan, and this is The Do-Over Show. And in my career, I've had to learn to increase my capability, not just to grow my skill set, but to actually be able to do more, not just with less. We're always asked to do more with less, but to be able to do more, even more than's expected of us, in order to demonstrate that we can exceed expectations, that we're a value add to an organization. As a consultant or as a regular employee, you want to be the kind of person that people will look to and say, I know they can do this. That's the person you want to be. So let's take a look at these axioms and go through them one by one, brief descriptions, and find out how you can improve your productivity and your outcomes. The first one is simple. If it's late, don't wait. If you're getting close to that time when something needs to be done, to be executed, don't hesitate at that point. Don't second guess yourself. You've done your work. If you've worked through your plan and planned your work, then you are all set. When you're at that point, do not hesitate. Don't let a fresh last-minute idea just before a deadline make everyone and everything late. Now, part of that means being able to control the process. Probably the next best axiom, and that is, as much as you possibly can, control the process. We see this all the time with editorial process, where we have layer upon layer and committee upon committee of people who don't stay in their lane. When we have people who are supposed to be proofreading for punctuation and numbers and accuracy and maybe spelling errors, and they start to opine about figures of speech and about the force of the argument or about the way you've said something. Yes, it's nice that everybody feels they get to have a contribution to something, but controlling the editorial process means asking somebody isolated. Ask them, can you do this, please? And when they're done, they're done. They don't get a second bite at the apple. Don't give them a second bite at the apple. If it's under your control, if it's your responsibility, then you own it and you own the editorial process. The next one is set fixed deadlines, but always have flexible scopes. Now, deadlines are arbitrary. We create them for ourselves just so that we'll have an end date, something to shoot for, because we can't possibly just circle the airport until we run out of fuel. We need to actually set a date, but the scope of work itself and how much it's going to be involved, and as you get into the process, you're going to have to discover in that process that maybe you need to do something you didn't expect that you needed to do. Maybe, though, there's something that you've already done that you can borrow and bring into this process that can actually shorten what you need in order to accomplish that flexible scope. Be flexible in the scopes. Be firm with an arbitrary deadline that we set. The next one is be early, never on time. On time is late. If you grew up in a military household, you know that if you're not 5 minutes early for something, you're 5 minutes late for it. But the idea is reverse engineer from the time when you need a finished product and reverse engineer back to today so that you build up your work, and always aim to be early. Not so that you can re-guess or rethink or get more opinions or input, but learn to get things done ahead of time. Now, that doesn't mean that you wait till the last minute, unless the person you're giving it to is the kind of second guesser that wants to fidget with little things. In that case, then you wait until they don't have enough time. That is, you control as much as you can control and help control people who can't control themselves. The next axiom is don't force the new on the old. Let's say you have an original version of something and you've decided that you want to upgrade part of it from version 7.0 to 7.1, and then you get into it and you're like, I need a 7.2, I need a patch 7.3, and all of a sudden you're at 7.9. That is the idea that you have to revise things. Remember, nothing is really final. Yes, you can capture a post or something else, and yes, there can be an iteration. Very little of what we do is ever going to be that important. That means that we do have a chance through the process of making updates and revisions before that ultimate moment. But don't think that when you hit post send, I had an email campaign and there was an obvious error in the final product that went out. Now, we have two options in that case. One, you can ignore it and pretend like, well, I didn't make an error, and hopefully no one will see it. Or you can be cheeky up front and say, did you see the email I just sent you? Did you catch the mistake? Well, let me tell you why that mistake is important. And then you get a second bite at that apple. You get it, all because you made a mistake. That is, don't force the new on the old. Don't expect old things to somehow jump up and become revived and new. Learn to move forward, to move on, to own mistakes, and to maybe turn them into something that can work to your advantage. The next one is probably my favorite, and that is that best practices are the floor, not the ceiling. When you're working with a new set of circumstances and you're trying to get work product up to a certain level, we'll often hear, okay, these are the best practices. But for people and teams that are not highly functioning, that aren't stretching themselves, they look at best practices as aspirational. They don't see them as the starting point or the baseline or the floor upon which we're supposed to. That is, you work the best practices and then you add your creativity and then you add your value. Best practices as an aspirational touch tell you something in a workplace, in a culture, or in a team. And that means that these people aren't really stretched, aren't really challenged, aren't really willing to do something that is exceptional or can be more than average. A best practice is just that. It's average. It's what everybody expects within your field, within your marketing. Best practices in marketing doesn't mean that you're going to have this BAVO campaign. It just means that you're going to meet the standards, and then you're going to get creative. The next axiom is now isn't better and later isn't best. Ego is no excuse for action, and it's no excuse for delays. Delaying things does not guarantee greater success. It doesn't. It doesn't mean that the final product will have greater effect, greater impact, greater influence, greater sales numbers. It doesn't mean just because you delayed something and second guessed it that you will all of a sudden have a fantastic success or a failure. You cannot blame a failure on a delay either. The next axiom is calm energy is a better energy and a better culture. That is, if you're always working on the sky is falling mentality, if that's the way you do every project, that everything is the end of the world, the apocalyptic finality to the world, then you're going to exhaust good people, you're going to cut off their creativity, and they're going to be in the business of just trying to make someone, you in your panic state, a frenzy, to make you happy rather than to make your customer happy, to reach your audience, to have better engagement. That is, they're not going to be interested in producing a report for a boss who is constantly running around with their hair on fire. That kind of culture is defeating. That kind of culture is going to drive good people to calm culture. And people today are looking for calm culture. And that means you as a team leader, you as a leader, you need to exhibit this calmness as a motivation, not calamity. The last axiom is really simple, and that is we don't know until we know. We can guess all we want about design and color schemes and timing and planning, but until we actually get to the point of executing, we won't know whether or not we've hit on something that will resonate with our customers, that will persuade a board or a boss. Now, part of this not knowing is that we often try to get into testing, and testing is really a form of hedging, like A/B testing. If you're anywhere in email marketing, direct marketing, social media marketing, you know that everybody wants, let's A/B test, and it keeps consultants paid and it keeps people busy. But A/B testing is really just a choice between two options that you couldn't decide on. Maybe the boss has a favorite, so you throw that in to make the boss happy. A/B testing does not accomplish excellence. And that means that even though we'll say we don't know which of these two email subject line options will perform better, and one may perform better than the other, I'll give you that. Don't avoid A/B testing, but don't think that kind of testing will somehow figure things out, because the premise of this is in all of our work product, in all we aspire to, and in our greater capacity, we won't know until we know. Living with putting in the effort without knowing whether or not it will absolutely work and take less time or have greater effect or help us professionally or personally in our development is part of the investment we make, the risk we take, but the risk we're taking with ourselves, with our work product, with our productivity. And these axioms have served me well and have made me much more productive, much more confident, and much more capable to get work done, where people will look at me and say, see him? He can get the job done. Hey, and thanks for being part of the Do-Over Show. Please, could you tap the like button because it really helps? And while you're down there, how about you subscribe and ring the notifications bell so you don't miss the next episode? I'm so glad you found me and I found you. Thanks.